Hello, my friends. Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, August 26, 2025. This is Jennifer. You guys may have noticed that I was gone last week, and the week before that I did a video with no voiceover and I was not in the video. The very short version is that my husband's best friend passed away, and not only was he my husband's best friend, he was one of my closest friends. My kids thought of him as an uncle, a friend for literally 25 years. So I just wasn't in the mood to record, and I'm sure you understand why. I've probably put a little warning at the beginning of this because I did want to share that because he wanted people to know our friend. He died from colon cancer before he reached the age of 50. So if you have it in your power and you are between 45 and 50 or older than 50 and you haven't had a colonoscopy, make that happen. Yeah, do it for yourself, do it for your loved ones. It's been a long year. He was diagnosed last year and we did everything we could, but there's only so much you can do, right? So that was about a week and a half ago. We had known for a couple of weeks because hospice care had already begun and things were not good. So that leads me to my current view. So you guys have probably already noticed that this looks very different from the last time I sat in front of my sewing machine. And that is because in the last 2 weeks, I have turned my sewing room upside down, inside out, and emptied probably a third of the things that were in here for giving away. While our friend was in hospice, my husband spent some time with him, and he told my husband that he wanted him to have his woodworking equipment. He was a phenomenal woodworker, among other things. I've shared things with you guys before that he's made for just for me, like my clapper that I sew with. He cut the wood for my cutting table. I have all kinds of little odds and ends from over the years that he made for either my family or for me. So anyway, he wanted my husband to have his woodworking stuff because they did a lot of stuff together. And if you've been around for any length of time, you know that I had a Gracie King frame in the garage. We don't have a very big property. We don't have a very large house. My frame has been out there for about 9 years. I think I got it in 2016. And so when I found this out, I just decided it was time for my husband to have the garage because his best friend wants him to have these things, and that is just really important to me that he be able to do that. So I spent the last 2 weeks just tearing apart my entire sewing room, tearing apart the quilting area in the garage. I took everything down. I took things apart. I took things out. I was brutal with going through and cleaning things out in my sewing room. Anything I didn't need or I hadn't used in a couple of years, it is gone. It's out of here. Things that were getting in my way, they're gone, they're out of here. And I spent ages working on floor plans. I have a graph paper map. I'll share a photo with you guys here. I have a graph paper map of my sewing space. It's a weird little space, and I like to try to get the furniture arrangement figured out before I ever do anything with the room itself. So the way I made this happen was I took my 6-foot Kallax storage unit that used to be on this wall. It is gone. It's actually disassembled in my living room right now because it's probably going to go in my garage soon. I took out a bunch of small pieces of furniture, and as I said, I cleaned a ton of things out. And this room is literally backwards and flip-flopped in every direction from what it was before. The only thing that's still in the same place is my embroidery machine. Everything else has moved. I guess the cutting table more or less because it's on wheels and it's in the middle. But so I took this down, and then this is a smaller sewing table. I had a 30 by 60 inch, just ancient IBM lab table, solid metal, solid as a rock, like I could stand on this table. But it was taking up too much room, so it is now in my garage. My son's going to use it for 3D printing. And this is a 2-foot by 4-foot table, so it's a smaller table. So I've moved things up they're on shelves, they're higher. I'll give you guys a little tour when I'm done chatting. The reason for all of this, if I haven't made that clear, I'm not sure, was to bring my quilt frame into this room, which this is not a huge room. It really is not. And my table was 11 feet long, but the Gracie King system, which they don't sell anymore, they stopped selling it like the year I bought it, so they haven't sold them since 2016. Yeah, I think it was 2016. So they are modular. So you have a 3-foot piece, a 5-foot piece, a 3-foot piece. So the 5-foot piece you can use all by itself to do crib size quilts. You add 3 feet to do queen size quilts. You add 3 feet to do king size quilts. So I had it set up as a king in my garage, which is 11 feet and change. And now it is 8 feet and change. And it's in my sewing room. The only real downside I found so far is that I had to put it against a wall, which means getting behind it is nigh on impossible. I don't know that I can put this on casters. That's a thing you can do with some frames, but it's a wood frame and it has to be dead level or I get irregular stitches when I'm using my stitch regulator. So it is set up, that's why I'm looking over there, because it is where my sewing table used to be. So the corner that I used to record in and my design wall was all of that has changed. The whole room has changed. So let's do a quick spin and I'll just show you, at least from this point of view, what's going on. So behind me, next to the door, this is my thread wall. I've just decided not to put the thread curtain back up for now. I use it for dust and I used it for light because I used to be closer to the window, but this is as far away from the window as I can get without being in the corner. And so it's not in direct light anymore. So I probably will just leave the curtains off for now because I really like the rainbow as well. Sewing machine, which I'll talk about in a second. Table here. I have a little IKEA storage unit under now, which is new. I'm rolling around the stool, so if you hear squeaking, that's what's going on. And for friends that have been around for a while, this is my original design wall space with an altered version of my big design wall added to it. This is, I think, 62 inches, so it's not anywhere near as wide as what I had before. You can really tell because these are 4 feet across by 4 feet tall, and these are only 14.5 inches wide. So I went from 8 feet to what I have here. So it's much narrower, but this is the wall that I used from, I don't know, 2007 until 2021. So I think I can probably use it again without any problem. I will adapt. It'll be fine. It was just a necessary evil to make this space work. So we're going to turn this way and you'll see I have this little 45-degree wall here. This is where my ironing station used to be. And now I have a little Calex here with my serger sitting on top so that I can just roll over there whenever I use my serger. My Cricut is to the left of that. I will have to roll that out to use it, but I don't use it all the time. So that won't be a problem. I'll just roll it out whenever I need it. I did not move my rulers and things, which are back here in the corner. I just left them there because it was the easiest thing to do. They might move at some point, but right now it's fine. It's very easy. It's not any longer distance between my cutting table and that pegboard than it was before. Now we get to the interesting part. My embroidery machine is still in the same space. Through that door is a teeny tiny closet, which is where my desk is. I have a 2-foot by 3-foot table in there. That is my whole space. That is where I edit and record, and you guys have seen me do little like during editing recordings in there before. So that space is my little office, embroidery machine, and then this is my mid-arm. This is my Qnique that's been in the garage since I bought it. Order of operations here was I got the frame first, and it originally had my Juki on it, and my Juki was on it from 2016 until like 2018. And then I got the Qnique, and that's been on there ever since. And this table, as I said, is now set up at 8 feet, and it was just 11 feet and a little bit before. There's some stuff on the ends that makes it a little bit longer, but it's not that much longer. And it is pushed as far against the wall as I can get it, which still makes the space pretty tight. You can see right now that I have my cutting table pushed against the frame. That is purely for recording so that I had a place to put my tripod. I do have room to move this into the center, and then I have a space where I can walk all the way around it. Though I will say that when I'm not quilting, I have a feeling this is probably going to live against the frame just because it's a little bit easier. These are quilts that I finished years past. These are both Talk to Me Tuesday quilts. This is my swap quilt from 2018, and that is the, I don't even know if you can see it yet. I'll move the camera in a second. The block of the month from last year and this year is on the other end. And that is because Jules's Talk to Me Tuesday 2018 swap quilt UFO that I was working on is on the frame being quilted, and I want it to be a surprise for her. So that is hidden by my quilts. I've sort of boxed myself in, so I'll just stand off camera for just a minute and show you guys the rest. So we're going to pan around, and this is my frame. You can see it's very tight. It's as close to the corner as I can get it. And then I have some decorations, and up here, we'll tilt back a little bit. I have added some shelving up high so that I have access to the things I need the most. All of my sewing stuff is up there. So like my notions, my elastic, it's that kind of thing. And then this guy here is my, this is my fabric dresser, which is my favorite way to store fabric. I keep all of my fabric on end like index cards. And then we're going to pan to the left, and this is my ironing station. Again, this is totally reverse backwards everything from what I had before. We'll come full circle from here. This is a little 1x4 Kallax that I picked up during this remodel so that I could have some of the things I needed close to my sewing table. And then we're back to my sewing table with the view you had before. So the back of my door is now my Talk to Me Tuesday Fandom and Stitches display. That's got all of my stuff that I used to have in the other corner that is here now, and design wall. So we did a full circle here. And what all of this has done is it has freed up half of our garage so that my husband has places to put some of that woodworking equipment. We don't know if we'll be able to fit it all, but I wanted him to have the option because it was really important to our friend that he have that. And this is such a small thing that I could do during such a horrible time. All of this was, I can't even call it therapeutic. I was a perpetual motion machine because the stress level was so high the last few weeks, and we were all just so overwrought with incoming emotion, and this really helped redo. Just making a giant mess and then having to fix it really, really helped. And so that is what I did. It was just necessary. Another thing that happened during all of this is that I realized that because I was going to shrink down my table, that I did not have room to keep two sewing machines out all the time anymore, which is what I did before. I would keep my Juki straight stitch out, and I would keep my zigzag machine, either my Singer 401A, or I have a little Janome to-go machine that does beautiful buttonholes, which is why I've kept it so many years. I would have one of those out, and there's not enough room for me to have two machines out because my table goes from here to here now, and you've got to have space to manipulate whatever you're sewing on. So I didn't want to fill this whole space. And the other thing was, I have mentioned this probably multiple times over the last few years, as I've been having trouble with my Juki shredding and breaking thread. I've had it serviced. I put a new plate on it. I've cleaned it 1,000 times. I've done all of the things you're supposed to do, and it's been a continual problem. I realized recently that I'd had it for 10 years. I got it right before retreat with Jules and Amber in 2015, and I have used the heck out of it. It lived on my frame for a couple of years. I've taken it everywhere. I've sewn so many projects on it, and I kind of think I've just killed it. I think I've worn it out. So I discussed it with my husband, and he was like, 10 years is like, if you have a car for 10 years, that's great. You having a sewing machine, I sew way more than I drive. He was like, get a new machine. So I did. So this is my new machine. This is a Janome 6650. It is new to me because this was a Quilt Show model that had a discount. So I bought this from Ken Sewing Center. If you guys are looking to purchase online, they are a good reputable place that you can purchase from. They're based out of Alabama. And they had some Quilt Show models where they had used them as demo machines for like a day or 2 days and then cleaned them, reboxed them. All the accessories were still sealed. It looked brand new, aside from the fact that it wasn't like shrink wrapped in plastic on just the machine itself. And it sews beautifully. I'm going to keep my Juki for a backup for now because there's always the possibility that I can find someone who can figure out what's wrong with it. But in the meantime, this is what I'm going to be sewing on now. I did try to find this locally and none of my local stores had it. I wanted this one in particular because it is the most similar footprint to the machine I've been sewing on. So I have a nice long space here. It combines the speed and weight, because it's got an all metal base, of the Juki with a computerized machine so that I can have one machine that does everything that I need it to do, whether I'm quilting or making garments or whatever. So yeah, I know this has probably been pretty long because I feel like I've been talking forever, but I felt like to a certain extent our world has been turned upside down and inside out, and I really wanted to spend some time talking about that this week before I went back to just sharing and showing you what I'm making and things like that. I just, like, I could not let such a huge, impactful, horrific thing pass by without mentioning it to you guys. I try to be a safe place and I try to be a calm place and a happy place for you guys, but I'm sure you know that life is real and that sometimes it's going to bleed through a little bit. I will always give you guys a warning though. So if you just don't have it in you, you can skip whatever video it might be in. That is going to be it for me, you guys. Have a really wonderful week. Have a crafty week. For goodness sakes, tell your friends and your family that you love them. Give people you care about a big hug. Take care of yourself. And I'll see you next week. Bye.